The Bridgewater Triangle. Paranormal investigators.
Welcome back, guys, to the channel, the Bridgewater Triangle Paranormal Investigators. And if you haven't already yet subscribed, make sure to do so. We have a lot of interesting investigation videos as well as story topics on the weird mysteries that happen right here inside the Bridgewater Triangle. And tonight I'm going to be talking about everyone's favorite legend that happens inside the Bridgewater Triangle. And it takes place in Rehoboth, right on Route 44, and it's the Redheaded Hitchhiker. And what is the Bridgewater Triangle? It's a 200 square mile paranormal vortex in a triangular region with everything under the sun for paranormal activity, ranging from Bigfoots, ghostly encounters, Thunderbirds, UFOs, demonic dogs, and cults. And they say all this activity sparked from a Native American curse after the Wampanoags lost to King Philip's War. So let's hop into the story. They say, while driving on Route 44, just after the Seekonk town line, as you get into Rehoboth, you'll spot a mysterious man hitchhiking. He's described as a tall lumberjack-looking man. He's wearing brown work boots, tan work pants, a red flannel shirt, he has a red beard, and red hair. And I know what you guys are thinking, and no, this is not the real Redheaded Hitchhiker. This is actually a character played by Paul Wilkinson when we were shooting the segment for the Redheaded Hitchhiker for our documentary Inside the Bridgewater Triangle, which, by the way, I will link in the description below. Actually, a quick little funny backstory. While we were filming the segment, you wouldn't believe how many motorists actually slowed down and stared, thinking that they actually saw this ghostly hitchhiker. I mean, they couldn't see the tripod, the camera, and the photography lights. I mean, come on now, people. I mean, one guy was so busy staring that he didn't notice the car in front of him that had stopped to stare, so he slammed on his brakes, almost swerving into one of the crew members who was out filming. And then the Rehoboth police showed up, saying that their station got flooded with phone calls from people driving by, actually thinking that they saw this red-headed hitchhiker. And they said that they were laughing after each phone call, so they had to take a trip down here just to check it out for themselves. So anyway, back to the story. Motorists will actually stop to pick up this hitchhiker, and he'll get into the car without saying a word, and his eyes are described to be lifeless. And as you continue driving on Route 44, within a blink of an eye, this hitchhiker disappears. After, motorists claim that they hear the sound of a brief, evil laugh coming through over their radio. And there's been other versions to the story, such as while driving on Route 44, you'll see this red-headed man's face in your windshield. And some others claim that while driving at 3 in the morning with a total of 3 people in the car, that this ghostly hitchhiker will appear in the back seat, then disappear. There's also been tales of people who have drove through this man with no impact. Now, in Christopher Balzano's book, Ghosts of the Bridgewater Triangle, there is a whole section on the Redheaded Hitchhiker, which actually brings up a good theory that I may have, which I'll explain shortly. But anyway, the story reads that there was a couple who broke down around 10 p.m. The woman stayed in the car while the man went to get help. They both suffered separate experiences. The man saw the hitchhiker on the side of the road, which, again, is my theory that I'll get into in a couple minutes. But anyway, this hitchhiker was yelling at the man, then disappeared, laughing from all directions. As the man made his way back to the car, the woman heard the hitchhiker's voice come over the radio, taunting her until she ran from the car. And as the story continues, there was another woman who claims that she saw the hitchhiker on the side of the road, walking into the woods. Which, again, is part of my theory. But who is this hitchhiker? What's his name? Where did he come from? Some say he was a local farmer, and one night on Route 44, he was changing a tire for a stranded motorist, then all of a sudden he was struck by a car and killed. Now, the problem I have with this folklore is there is no supporting evidence at all to back up any of these allegations, and with the story circulating so much throughout the Bridgewater Triangle, why hasn't a family member came forward and said, hey, that's my deceased uncle or brother or father? I mean, what was he, the red-headed stepchild of the family, an outcast? So me and my team entered this investigation on Route 44 one night as huge skeptics, of course, which there will be a link in the description, so make sure you go ahead and check out that awesome video. So we were pulled over on the side of the road. Now, at the time, I was driving a 2006 Mercury Grand Marquis, and for those of you who had driven this car or even still own this car, know that if you're driving without your seatbelt on, or even pulled over somewhere without your seatbelt on, that alarm will keep chiming and chiming. It's enough to want to make you pull your hair out of your freaking head. So anyway, one of the investigators was setting up the spirit box in the back seat. He hands me the box, and then all of a sudden, a voice comes through saying, "You're out of your seatbelt." Now, the only ones who would know about that would be me and the passengers in my car. And then, right after, we heard the sound of an evil laugh. So after that night, I was starting to think that maybe there's some kind of kernel of truth behind this whole folklore. So that still doesn't explain who he is or where did he come from. But one night, I was talking to someone on social media, and this person claimed that this hitchhiker was a patient of his mother's, who was a nurse at the old Taunton State Hospital. So I'm not really sure if it's the ghostly hitchhiker or just a look-alike. But anyway, if we were to put the pieces to the puzzle together and move forward, then my theory is this, that this hitchhiker was homeless, and he lived in the woods on the stretch of Route 44. Because if you go back to that section in Christopher Balzano's book, it talks about the woman who had seen him on the side of the road walking into the woods. So he may not have been dead at that time during this encounter, which makes sense that if a story circulates for so long, then she would have thought that her encounter at the time was something ghostly. And maybe he became very popular with the locals as they seen him hitchhiking, possibly to a liquor store. Not to be the typical stereotype, but a lot of homeless people do like to wash away their problems with the bottle. And unfortunately, living outside, especially in New England's harsh weather, yeah, it doesn't really go hand to hand, so eventually this man passed away. Now, eventually, as time goes on, people driving in Rehoboth haven't seen this man in a while and think the worst. He's dead. So before you know it, that's when rumors start to fly everywhere. "Oh, I saw him the other night, I picked him up and he disappeared." Or, "I hit him with my car, but as I got out to check to see if he was okay, no one was there." And I'm sure a lot of these rumors stem from the couple who broke down, who had their encounter, which, by the way, may actually have some truth behind it. Because the man did explain that he had an unpleasant experience with this mysterious figure whose presence may still linger in the area, yelling and laughing. So he could have been a raging alcoholic who was confused, which would explain why he was being treated now at Taunton State Hospital at that time for his well-being. So he may not know that he had passed away. His presence could be stuck in this particular area on Route 44. So I do believe that, yes, people's car radios are picking up phantom sounds of this ghostly figure's unearthly laugh. I mean, our spirit box picked it up, and a spirit box is nothing more than a channel sweeper that sweeps through FM and AM stations both at the same time, but in different directions to pick up on any EVPs. But I don't believe that this figure is hitching a ride with people driving through Rehoboth, because if you're picking up a hitchhiker, which, by the way, I don't suggest doing, but for those of you who have done it before in the past, the first thing that you're going to say is, "Hey, where are you heading to?" You're not going to just welcome a hitchhiker into your car who's being rude and not speaking to you. But according to this story, he continues to ride down Route 44 with you without saying a word. So it could be something on a residual sense that's replaying his nightly routine on a film loop from when he used to hitchhike, if that makes sense. I mean, that's the only other logical explanation behind the paranormal aspect to the story. But to separate fact from fiction, I just find it hard to believe that he's physically opening someone's door and getting into their car. So next time you're traveling in Rehoboth driving down Route 44, be on the lookout. You may just encounter this red-headed hitchhiker. And would you be kind enough to pull over and offer him a ride? So what's everyone's thoughts on this folklore? I love to read your opinions in the comments below. And if you ever had an encounter with this ghostly hitchhiker, feel free to reach out to me on any of my social media pages and like this video.